Jai Radha Madhava Jai Kunja Bihari Jai Kunja Bihari Jamuna Tidavana Chade Jai Kunja Bihari Jai Jamuna Tidavana Chade Jai Kunja Bihari Jai Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramhamsa Parivajaka Acharya Ashtatara Sarashi Shamachala Abhay Charana Arabinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Pratishtata Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Shamaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Shri Srinidai Gaur Shitanath Brahmanande Hari Hari Bo Bande Aham Shri Guru Shri Jitapar Kamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Shahagana Raganatam Vitang Tang Shajivam Sadvaitam Shavadutam Parijana Shaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padang Shahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitangscha Mantra Guru Ajokta Shikha Guru Gonta Charanayage Kore Abandon Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shandavadi Paschat Desha Tarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Krishna Damu Bhagate Dharma Jnana Divishaha Kalonashta Drishame Sha Puranak Adonoditaha Tam āyāntam abhipretya brahmāvartāt prajāḥ patim gīta-saṁstuti-vāditraiḥ pratyudīyuḥ praharṣitāḥ Tam āyāntam abhipretya brahmāvartāt prajāḥ patim gīta-saṁstuti-vāditraiḥ pratyudīyuḥ praharṣitāḥ. Please chant. Vaishnavigan. Tam, him. Āyāntam, who was arriving. Abhipretya, knowing of. Brahmāvartāt, from Brahmāvarta. Prajāḥ, his subjects. Patim, their Lord. Gīta-saṁstuti-vāditraiḥ, with songs, praise, and instrumental music. Pratyudīyuḥ, came forward to greet. Praharṣitāḥ, overjoyed. Translation and purport by ISKCON founder Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Overjoyed to know of his arrival, his subjects came forward from Brahmāvarta to greet their returning Lord with songs, prayers, and musical instruments. Purport. It is the custom of the citizens of a kingdom's capital to receive the king when he returns from a tour. There is a similar description when Kṛṣṇa returned to Dvārakā after the Battle of Kurukṣetra. At that time he was received by all classes of citizens at the gate of the city. Formerly, capital cities were surrounded by walls, and there were different gates for regular entrance. Even in Delhi today, there are old gates, and some other old cities have such gates where citizens would gather to receive the king. Here also the citizens of Barhiṣmatī, the capital of Brahmāvarta, the kingdom of Svāyambhuva, came nicely dressed to receive the emperor with decorations and musical instruments. Mukam kardi bācālam pangam mangaite gadim jat kripatamaham bandai shri godam dinatādinam. Brahmāvarta is the kingdom of Svāyambhuva Manu. Barhiṣmatī is the capital of the kingdom, and Barhiṣmatī praja. Barhiṣmatī Brahmāvarta praja. Well, it seems to me they all must be demigods in Brahmāvarta, because Svāyambhuva Manu, he's the father of mankind, and we're just hearing now about Devahuti and Kardama Muni and progeny, so actually there are not too many humans yet. So the citizens here, Brahmāvarta, they all must be denizens of heaven, which are created separately. In the previous sections of this canto, we hear how the demigods are created in a separate category from the humanity. So Prabhupada is describing about the reception and how the gates, they came to the gate and the gates of the cities. Prabhupada's mentioning how Delhi, there's old gates in Delhi. If you like to go on a parikrama sometime, Gaudamar Jaishabasthane Korela Brahmana Range, all of those places where Gaud Amar, my Gaud, Korela Brahmana Range, performed his transcendental pastimes, Sheshabasthane, Heriboami, all of those places I will see Heriboami Pranayi Bhakata Shange, in association of loving devotees, as recommended by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So if you like to go to see the place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his pastimes in Ramkeli, where he first met Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, Aj hoite tomanam Rup Sanatan, and initiated them, Dhanna chara tomar dhanna fite morman. Give up your humility, it's breaking my mind. So at that special place, you can visit, it's a train ride from Navadip. You can take the Intercity Express, which perhaps many of you are familiar with. Coming to Navadip in the afternoon, leaving Howrah Station. Now if you stay on that train and continue on that train for another 6 hours, then you'll come to Malda. Malda now is the modern day city of what used to be the capital of Bengal. At the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it was called Gold, the kingdom of gold. And therefore, this place is called Gauda Desh. And we are the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Some news today, because the capital was called Gold. So Mahaprabhu went there. He went there after taking sannyas on his, after 2 years tour in South India. And then he remained 2 years in Jagannath Puri. And then attempt to go to Vrindavan. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhva Leela, chapter 17, attempt to go to Vrindavan. Gauda hoite mor dui shamasrai janani janubi ei dui doyamoy. Mahaprabhu explained to Shavrabhama Bhattacharya and Pratapurudra Maharaj that Gauda hoite, in Gauda Desh, mor dui shamasrai. I have 2 shelters, Janani, Janubi, Sachi Devi and Ma Ganga, ei dui doyamoy. These 2 are full of mercy. So I desire, Mahaprabhu explained, I desire to go to Vrindavan via Bengal. And to take with me to Vrindavan the Gauda Desh Bhaktagan, the devotees from Bengal. And so Mahaprabhu returned to Bengal. And as we hear described in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, he reached Ramkeli and he met with Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. And then such a crowd had gathered. In fact, that the Nawab Hussain Shah, a historical figure, he felt that maybe this was like a revolution. And so he sent his constable to do a report and everything. That's a very detailed description. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antakanda, chapter 4, perhaps on another day we'll describe in detail. But we're mentioning about gold because you can visit that place and you can see the gates. They're still there, the gates of the city. There's the eastern gate, a northern gate, southern gate. You can still see. The walls have all broken down, but the gates are still there, so it's very wonderful. You can imagine Chaitanya Mahaprabhu along with thousands and thousands of followers who had gathered along the path as he had come all the way from Jagannath Puri. Thousands and thousands of followers as they were entering through those very gates. And also you can see the palace of the Nawab, remnants of the palace of the Nawab, and the prison where Srila Sanatana Goswami was imprisoned. And that's there, you can see that. And you can even see lying on the grounds of the palace of the Nawab, the different pieces from the temples of the Oda Desh that the Nawab had conquered. And he attacked Odia Desh, attacked under Prataparudra Maharaj. There's a war going on at the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu between Bengal and Orissa. There was a war going on. And there are many pieces of the temples, the columns, that he had destroyed temples, and he brought those columns all the way back to Bengal and to put on display, showing his victories. So all of these things can be seen in gold, in Malda, if you take the trip there. So now Prabhupada, he mentions in the purport about here, Svāyambhuva Manu is coming back, and the citizens are there with the prayers, with hymns, with glorification, and with musical instruments. And Srila Prabhupada, he refers to the detailed description found in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, chapter 11, Lord Krishna entrance into Dvārakā. So today we can hear some of that description which is given and discuss its significance. We'll read a few verses from the 11th chapter of the 1st canto, describing how upon reaching the border of his most prosperous metropolis, Dvārakā, city of Dvārakā, the Lord sounded his auspicious conch shell, heralding his arrival. He travelled with his conch shell. We used to do Sankirtan in Australia many years ago, and one devotee, he had a conch shell. And we would go to the various venues to Sankirtan. We'd drive into the car park or the football ground and the different. He would hang his head out the window and blow his conch from the car as we were driving in, boo, boo, heralding the auspicious arrival of the Sankirtan party. So this is the Vedic culture. The great heroes, they have their personal conches. What's Krishna's conch's name? Panchajanya. So he's blowing the conch, heralding his arrival and pacifying the dejection of all the inhabitants of Dvārakā. And then Bhagavatam describes that the white bowled conch shell, gripped by the hand of the Lord, the reddish appeared reddish by the comments. Very poetic. Kavi, Prabhupada's a kavi, a poet. His writing is very beautiful. The white swan playing in the stem of it's like a white swan. The verse explains like a white swan playing in the stem of red lotus flowers. And the purport Prabhupada he writes, it's very beautiful. Listen attentively, O assembly of Vaishnavas. By ardent love and devotional service to the Lord, or in other words, by spiritual contact with the Lord, everything becomes spiritually reddened, like the conch shell in the grip of the Lord. The Paramahansa, or the supremely intelligent person, plays the part of a ducking swan in the water of spiritual bliss, eternally decorated by the lotus flower of the Lord's lotus feet. So hearing the conch sounding, all of the citizens of Dvārakā Dham, they ran out of the city to greet the Lord, desiring to have his audience after a long time of his departure. He's been away, and everything in regard the Battle of Kurukṣetra and the preceding activities, political activities going on, all of that. Krishna was away from Dvārakā all of that time, quite a long period. And even he was, Bhagavatam explains, he was preparing to depart. And Kunti Maharani, she offered prayers, the whole chapter of 8th chapter, 1st canto, which the purpose, Prabhupada explains, the purpose was to keep Krishna in Hastinapura for longer. And Krishna remained there for another 3 months. And then they went to see Bhishmadev departure. So he's been away for an extensive period of time, and all the residents of Dvārakā are feeling great separation from the Lord. So they're running out to see him with great desire, carrying various presentations. Well, listen to this description of how they greet the Lord. It is very instructive. And specifically here in ISKCON World Headquarters, ISKCON Chandrodaya Mandir, Temple of Vedic Planetarium, we actually have capacity to incorporate many of these features of a Vedic reception. And in that way, the beauty and the glory of ISKCON Mayapur can be further enhanced. So they all came with gifts. Well, no one's coming empty-handed. They're all coming with various presentations. However, it is described like an offering of a lamp to the sun. How can one offer anything to the Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, to the master of all of the planets? But still, to show their appreciation, they're carrying gifts. So the Bhagavatam is explaining the city gateways, the household doors, and festooned arches along the roads were all nicely decorated with festive signs and plantain trees and mango leaves. Plantain trees, that's banana trees. Banana trees with the beautiful leaves, and sometimes you see in the programs they have the branches of the banana tree. It's kind of like tied there on the arches, making an arch, very beautiful. And nature's gifts, and very auspicious. The fruit-bearing trees are very auspicious. On the new roads here, the new road going out Ishodan Road, very impressive to see that on both sides of the road fruit trees are planted and flower trees, champa, mango trees are planted. For some reason, that when they painted the white, I noticed this morning they painted the white on the speed traps. They didn't keep the vehicles away, and now there's like white patches all the a little. They just keep their vehicles off till the paint dries, but didn't do that. There's white patches all over the wheels. Anyway, the auspicious trees are on both sides of the highway, so it's very good to see. There were flags, there were garlands, there were painted signs, painted and slogans. What was on the slogans? Not described in detail here, what was written on the slogans, but painted signs and slogans. Well, in any case, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his teachings to Srila Rupa Goswami, he describes what is the particular bhab of Dvārakā. He's explaining, he's comparing the mood in Dvārakā to the mood in Vrindavan. He's explaining to Rupa Goswami. Actually, that chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Rupshika, it's very significant chapter. Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Pranto. That's Krishna Tattva, means Sambandha Gyan. Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Abhidaya Gyan. Rasa Tattva, Prayojan, Pranto. Pranto means anto, means the end. Means as much as can be explained. Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Pranto, Shab, Shikailo Prabhu, Bhagavat Siddhanto. He taught all of that to Rupa Goswami, Bhagavat Siddhanto. The conclusions of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught to Rupa Goswami in one chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Take advantage of that to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. So Mahaprabhu is explaining the mood of Dvārakā and the mood of Vrindavan. Gokule kebal roti, ashajagyan hin. That in Vrindavan, Gokule kebal roti. Roti means emotion, love. Kebal roti is only the emotions and love of Krishna. Ashajagyan hin. Ashajagyan means the opulence. Knowledge of the opulence is not present in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, the Brajabashis, they do not consider Krishna as God. And not because he's God, they love him. They love him just because he's Krishna, because he's so attractive, because of his interaction, because of his flute playing, because of his beautiful lips, because of his beautiful reciprocation, everything, the fragrance of his body. This is why they love Krishna. Because he's God, that's insignificant. It's insignificant. Just like Majasoda. One time Krishna, he displayed the universal form. And Majasoda, she wasn't particularly impressed. In fact, she goes home, she doesn't even tell anybody. Can you imagine, ladies, if your child on your lap opened his mouth and displayed the universal form? You would never stop talking about it. It would be on your Facebook page, it would go viral. Unless you're under 16 and you're in Australia. But in fact, you would never forget it. The universal form in the mouth of your child, you would never forget it. You would be talking about it all the time. Majasoda, she never even mentions it again. How's that possible? Gokule, was that Kebal Shuddha Prem, or Mahaprabhu again, same chapter. Kebal Shuddha Prem, or Shajjana Jane. In the Kebal Prem, there's this intense love and affection, intimacy in Vrindavan, Ashajya Najane, then they don't care about that he's God. Ashajya Dekleo. Even he displays his opulence as God. Ashajya Dekleo, Nija Shambhonda Shemane. Only there, Nija Shambhonda. No, he's my son, Nija Shambhonda. The personal relationship, Shemane. They're only thinking of that. There's a Vrindavan. Some Mahaprabhus explain, Gokule Kebal Roti. It's only emotion and love, intimate relationships. Ashajya Hain. No concept that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Puri Dvāre, Vaikuntha or Shadjagan Prabhin. Puri Dvāre, in the two Puris. That's Mathura Puri and Dvārakā Puri. Puri Dvāre, Vaikuntha, up to Vaikuntha, or Shadjagan Prabhin. There the predominant mood is of opulence. And under Ashadjagan Prabhin, the main conception is that Dvārakadish is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They consider Lord Krishna in Dvāraka as the super soul residing in the hearts of all beings. This is the consciousness of the Mahishigon, the queens in Dvāraka, and the Yadu Bangsha, the Yadu dynasty. They all understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So perhaps some statements like that were painted on the slogans. The highways, the subways, the lanes. Wow. All different types of roads. There's highways, there's subways, and there's lanes. The thing about Mayapur, we put the speed traps, but people, bichar komatane, somehow they can't distinguish between a main road and a pathway in the campus, and it's the same speed everywhere. Actually, there's signs everywhere. Oh, we'll come back to that. Come back to that. Highways, subways, and lanes, markets and public meeting places were all thoroughly cleansed. All thoroughly cleansed for Krishna's arrival. All of the subways, highways, markets, public places, all thoroughly cleansed. Moistened with scented water. And strewn here and there, fruits, flowers, and unbroken seeds. Amazing. So rich with probable affection, with attention to detail. Everything's cleaned, and then fruits, flowers, and unbroken seeds are strewn here and there on all the pathways and marketplaces. In each and every door of the residential houses, there are auspicious things like curd, unbroken fruits, sugar cane, and full water pots. As we mentioned, here in Mayapur, all of these things are available. Sugar cane, full water pots. I remember, it's 20 years ago now, Panchatattva arrived. We were having class over there. In the old days, we had class in the Sankirtan building over there, and wasn't so many devotees in Mayapur. This actually, they had to break the walls of the Panchatattva temple that is downstairs. They had to break the walls to get Mahaprabhu in. He couldn't get through the gate. Break the walls. And it was a big reception. They were waiting, the semi-trailers with each of the Panchatattva. They'd come from Kumbakonam. They'd come from Kumbakonam, Tamil Nadu. And a big reception. We had the elephants. The elephants will be mentioned here also. The elephants were there to receive the Panchatattva and bring them back. So many opportunities. Of course, we're all meditating on bringing the Lord from the Chandradaya Mandir temple to the temple of Vedic planetarium, carrying the Lord. That'll be a big festival. And there's so many of these things we can incorporate. Everything cleaned, everyone dressed nicely, fruits and the mango trees and the banana trees and the instruments. And there's more. Would you like to hear a little more? So each and every door of there. So on hearing that most dear Krishna was approaching Dvārakā, the magnanimous Vasudeva, Akrura, Ugrasena, Balaram, the superhumanly powerful, Pradyumna, Charudeshna, Shamba, the son of Jambavati, all extremely happy, abandoned resting, sitting and dining. Resting, sitting and dining. Even you're taking prasadam. And the great personality is arriving, then you stop and go out to receive. Even taking prasadam. Not just let me finish, and then I'll go. If you're still there, hope so. No, right there, got up in the middle of prasadam. Abandoned dining. They hastened toward the Lord on chariots with Brahmins bearing flowers. Before them were elephants, emblems of good fortune. Conch shells and bugles were sounded. We need bugles. We have conch shells, we need bugles. Bugles. You see in those old paintings of Mahaprabhu, the Sankirtan party, and Mongol Bhumi, they had bugles playing in the Sankirtan. Bugles. And the Brahmins were chanting Vedic hymns. And they all offered their respects to Dvārakādīsh, saturated with affection. At the same time, many hundreds of well-known prostitutes. They also came on their various vehicles. I'm sure they were following the speed limit of Dvārakā, even without signs. Actually, I go slow. And I'm a traffic hazard because everyone somehow or other has to whiz past me. There's the irony of it, even though there's signs everywhere. So on their vehicles they went, and very eager to meet the Lord. Their faces beautifully decorated with dazzling earrings. These are the heavenly damsels, apsaras, heavenly damsels, and which enhance their beauty of their foreheads. You can read that purport. Prabhupada discusses some philosophical aspects of the prostitutes' devotional service. You can read that in your own time. It's very interesting. Expert dramatists. Expert dramatists. Now, if they're referred to as dramatists, it's not just, they must have been doing drama as well. They must have been doing drama on the road as the Lord was coming. I was fortunate to preach in Bangladesh many years, and I remember on the first program I went to, it was Kethuridam, Srila Narottam Thakur Mahārshai Janmastan. It's the annual festival there, the disappearance of Srila Narottam Thakur, appearance of Narottam Thakur Mahārshai in October. And we would begin our tour of Bangladesh every year at that time. And then there was a Sammelan from all over Bengal, all over Bangladesh. He's Purva Bengal Bhumi, East Bengal, all the different sampradayas, Vaishnavas, Gaudiyas, some what we describe Shahajiya, but they're all still very much absorbed in the consciousness of Gaunitai and the culture of the great personalities that appeared in Gaudadesh, like Thakur Narottam Mahārshai. And all night, the program was all night, and I would wandering around from different groups, and they're doing the dramas, the nartak of the Krishna Leela, and the Padabali Kirtan, Narottam Thakur, the Padabali Kirtan. It was so beautiful. Without mics, sitting in a circle, and the Radha Krishna Leela. This is how a Vaishnava Sammelan is a drama, and on the roads, just here and there, without a big auditorium. Just the people gather, and immediately they're doing the drama. Dramatists, artists, dancers like in Jagannath Puri, Rath Yatra, you see the different dances are there. We have our Rath Yatra Kolkata also. Srila Prabhupada instructed his followers to make Kolkata Rath Yatra the biggest in the world. The biggest, what an instruction. That means bigger than Jagannath Puri Rath Yatra. He said, make it bigger, amazing. It's very big, it's the biggest in ISKCON. And it goes for like several kilometers actually, the procession, even before the ruts. And there's all types of palanquins and dancers and different performers. You should join one year. You'll be very enlivened and you'll feel the presence of Srila Prabhupada. So there were dancers, there were singers, there were historians. Historians. We need some historians in Mayapur. Here's a little bit of history. Srila Kadamba Kanan Swami Maharaj, Nityalila Pravishta, Srila Kadamba Kanan Swami Maharaj, he told me one time how he was serving here for 6 years in the 1990s. He was in charge of Samadhi, Pushpa Samadhi construction. He was here at the Purva Ashram with his wife. She's still on this planet. She lives in Radhadesh, his widow. So he is describing to me what the situation was like in Mayapur in those days. She was the first lady to ride a bicycle. There were no ladies riding bicycles. Even in Bangladesh, you don't know about now, but when I was in Bangladesh, ladies didn't ride bicycles. It wasn't considered ladylike to ride a bicycle. So she was the first lady to get a bicycle, and seeing that it was met with great resistance by the Bengali men to seeing a lady. What's going to happen to our community if ladies start riding bicycles? And so they would regularly pull the valves out from the tires of her bicycle and throw them away. This is the resistance. A little bit of history of Mayapur. Just to see what we've become like now. It's like 5-lane highway out there on the motor scooters. Then ladies weren't even, no bicycles. What to speak of a motorbike? No motorbikes. A little bit of history of Mayapur. So historians and genealogists, historians, singers, dancers, historians and genealogists. They give the family lineage. So in different places they're standing there, they're giving some history of the Dvārakā and the different genealogy. All of these are different features of a Vedic reception. and learned speakers all gave their respective contributions. Being inspired by the superhuman pastimes of the Lord. Now the personality of Godhead, Lord Kṛṣṇa, Dvārakādīṣ, as he was arriving, he offered due honor and respect to each and every one of the friends, relatives and citizens, and all of those who came to welcome him. The Almighty Lord greeted them, greeted everyone. He greeted everyone by bowing his head and exchanging, by the different ways. The Lord's greeting the different classes of devotees who had gathered to receive them, and he's greeting them in different, he's reciprocating with them in different ways. He's bowing his head to the senior, like Yudhishthira Maharaj. He's not there now, he was still in Hastinapur, but Krishna would touch the feet of Yudhishthira because of his Raja Maryada, because of his position as the emperor, and because he was elder. He would touch the feet of Yudhishthira. So he was showing respect to the senior member, Ugrasena, and other senior members of the outer dynasty in Dwarkadam. He was embracing his peers, and shaking hands. Looking and smiling at others, and giving assurances and awarding benedictions. So in all these different grades of the society, he was reciprocating accordingly, giving benedictions to the junior. So in this way, even to the lowest rank, he was attentive to reciprocate with. So Prabhupada in his purport, he explains, the process of reception according to Vedic rites is not at all dry. Not simply by decorating the roads and streets, as described, but worshipping the Lord with all requisite ingredients: incense, lamp, flowers, sweets, fruits, and other palatable dishes. Like bring food, like on the Hati Purikrama, or the Purikrama of Radha Madhav, you can bring offerings. In Kolkata Rath Yatra, we participate every year at different places. Not everywhere, because it would take so long. Not everywhere, but here and there, the stops and devotees come and they make offering of all types of. At that time, it's the summer season, so the kartal, jackfruit, and you can smell, and mangoes, fresh fruits, and sweets, generally sweets. Laddu and burfi and sandesh and big plate. And Jagannath Shami, he served the bhoga, it's not on a plate, it's put in the pots. The pots are all put in front of the big pots that you get the prasadam in Jagannath Puri. That's how it's offered to Lord Jagannath. That's like so festive. And they come with the big pots and they hand them up onto the chariot. So with sweets, Prabhupada is saying, sweets, fruits and other palatable eatables, according to one's capacity. And the remnants of the food stuff were distributed at that time. So ecstatic. It's offered to the Lord and the prasadam is distributed right there. Please do yakori prasadin, and then they're distributing the prasadam. So it's not dry. It's not like a dry reception of these modern days. They come in the automobile with the bulletproof glass and all barricades are there, and maybe you get a flag and he waves out the window. Not dry like reception of the modern days. So much nectar. Taking prasad, offering prasadam. Each and every house ready to receive the Lord in the same way. Each and every house. Amazing. The festival was successful. Prasadam and Gita. Vidihinam ashristhanam. Without proper properly following the regulations. Ashristhanam. Without distribution of prasadam. Mantrahinam. Without chanting mantra. Then adakshinam. Without offering dakshina to the priests. Asradadanam. Without faith. Jagyam tamasanam parikshiyate. Such a jagya is considered to be in the mode of ignorance. The Vedic way of receiving a great personality creates an atmosphere of respect, which is saturated with affection and veneration. An atmosphere of respect which is saturated with affection and veneration for the person received. The auspicious atmosphere of such a reception depends on the paraphernalia as described above. Isn't that amazing? How attentive we should be to the detail of as much of these items of the Vedic reception as can be arranged. The atmosphere is produced by all of those items and the detail and the preparation. Isn't that instructive? Not that we just think, oh, Bhava Janardhan Grahai, he accepts the mood, so we'll just relax and die. Welcome, Haribo. The paraphernalia, you take the time, get it organized in advance, everything. In Mayapur, we have many nice festivals, and you can bring the Ganga Jal days in advance for abhisheks. And so this is the mood. Everything in great detail, all of the aspects we attentively try to arrange. Auspicious atmosphere depends on the paraphernalia, including conch shells, flowers, incense, decorated elephants, and qualified Brahmins reciting verses from Vedic literature. Such a program of reception is full of sincerity for both the receiver and the received. Of course, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, regarding the chanting of mantras, as Mahaprabhu mentioned in his preaching. He first began, he was in the Vidya Lila, and he journeyed to Purva Bengal Bhumi, East Bengal, because so many people from East Bengal were unable to come to Navadip, but they'd heard his commentaries. He was famous even in East Bengal. So Mahaprabhu, he visited East Bengal. Padma River, the area is known as Faridpur. He went there. And he was there. And at that time, although he was in the Vidya Lila, he was teaching, and he gave certificates. Imagine a certificate signed by Nimai Pandit. Such things were received. What a treasure. Perhaps we'll find sometime. So he was in the Vidya Lila, and one Brahmin, he was confused. Bahu Shastra Bahu Gantra Chitta Brahma Hoy. Tapan Mishra, he was confused. Chitta Brahma, confused. Too much Bahupakya, too much instruction, too many books. Sadan Sadda Sresta Bujte Na Hoy. You cannot clearly understand the conclusion. So he inquired from Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu explained to Tapan Mishra at that time, Shuno Mishra, Kali Juga Nahi Tapa Jagya Jai John Bhaje Krishna Shay Mahabhagya. Oh, listen, Mishra, in Kali Yuga Nahi Tapa Jagya, no need of austerity and sacrifices. Jai John Krishna Bhaje, that one who chants the name of Krishna, Shay Mahabhagya, he is the most fortunate. So, most essential ingredient in the reception of the great personality is the performance of the Shankirtan, Mahajagya, Harinam Shankirtan. So certainly in Mayapur, in fact Prabhupada says that in Mayapur there should be constant chanting of these three mantras: Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gau Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha, Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Prabhupada says these 6 lines should be constantly heard in Mayapur, so that one doesn't hear any other sound. And if this is arranged by the managers of that project, then certainly that project will flourish. Mahaprabhu also, he arrived here, that was the first journey here, East Bengal, and then subsequently at the end of the Vidya Lila, he went to Gaya, Dham, and there he was initiated by Ishwar Puri Prabhu. And when he returned, there was a reception for him as he returned, right here in Navadip, just here. Like to hear a little bit about that? Gaya Kore Island, Sri Gaura Shundor, having returned from Gaya Dham, Sri Gaura Shundor, Paripurna Doni Hoilo, Nadia Nagor. All you could hear, all through Nadia, the village of Navadip, Nadia Nagor, Paripurna Hoilo, Dhoni. Or the only sound you could hear was that Gaya Kore Island, Sri Gaura Shundor. Gaura Shundor has returned from Gaya Dham. And they all went out to greet him. Some were relatives and friends, some were in front of the Lord as he was journeying. coming back to Shachiyangan. Some were walking along with him and some were behind. And they were also jubilant. And Mahaprabhu said, he reciprocated with them by saying that without your blessings, by your blessings, I was able to visit Gayadam and return safely by your blessings. And of course, in Gayadam, such an instructive tour of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was going there in the guise of karma kanda. Banasram Dharma, performing the duties as a Grihastha Brahmin to perform the Shraddha ceremony of Jagannath Mishra. And then upon seeing Ishwarapuri, Prabhupada, Toma Dekleo Matro, Koti Pitrigon, Shekone Sharvabanda Pai Bimochon. Simply by seeing you, Tomar Dekleo Matro, simply by seeing you, Koti Pitrigon, millions, 10 million of my ancestors, Shekone, at that moment when I saw you, Sharla Bonda Pai Bimochon, they were all delivered. So Mahaprabhu, he establishes the Siddhanta of the Vaishnava philosophy in his own Leela. So some thoughts today on the topic of Svāyambhuva Manu returning to his city of Barhiṣmatī, the capital of Brahmāvarta, as described in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Are there any questions?
First we have to digest that. You gave us a feast. Thank you.
Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shamaveta Gaud Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.